The rear valve cover is under the intake manifold. You need the gaskets, you need the spark plug tube seals from Felpro. Just get the whole kit. It's like 40 something dollars at AutoZone and such. The EGR tube with the sensor, you gotta take that out. It's caked up with carbon. Trust me, you'll see it if it's under over 100,000 miles and hasn't been cleaned. Solvents for cleaning, brake parts cleaner, carb cleaner, and RTV sealant for the arches on the valve cover that made up to the timing cover. So yeah, definitely take out your air cleaner. All right, let's see. You want to take off your intake manifold, get the air cleaner out the way, pop those clips, disconnect harnesses, disconnect your battery first before anything. Take out all of that. The screw for that banjo bolt right there, back there, yeah, that. It's an 8mm. So if you got a ratchet, it makes it easier than fiddling with a flathead screwdriver. You take that off, take off the little needle one, the hose, mass airflow sensor, take it off, idle air, intake temperature sensor, take it off. What else? Your connectors back there, that leads to the idle air control valve. You can take that hose completely off. Idle air control valve has 3 connectors on it, pink, purple, and gray. And that right there leads to your EGR sensor down there. You can disconnect that and let it drop. Yeah, that idle air control valve's in the way. It's like a big bulge. It's blocking you from taking off the bolts back there for the EGR tube. So those are 12s to take off idle air control valve. Those are 12s, 3 12s, like a triangle. And then yeah, back there is your EGR bolts. Now what I'm touching right now is, I guess, like a vent hose, some kind of hose, right? You see the bracket that's hanging on, you could just pull it off and drop it, because you will need to get your hand back there and a socket is going to be in the way. That which I just touched, your throttle cables go through there. I took that off the first time I took off my intake manifold, because trying to lift up the manifold, I thought it was in the way. I took it off, made it easier, but it's just something that, it's another thing to make sure you just bolt it back up. So hold on a second. Let Mr. Ducati go, Ducati go. Yeah, you could take that off. Those are 12s. That right there, that line, you need to take that off. It goes all the way. It's a hard line that goes all the way over to that, and it has little clips that hold it to the firewall. So hold the tube, hold the tube, get that clamp off, and then you gotta use the pliers to like wriggle it a little bit, you know, twist it back and forth, make it easier to take it off, because it is hard to just pull it straight off. It is. What else? You got your throttle cables. They come out, they come around. They come around there, and they're bracketed right there. Take out those bolts, those 2 12s. Put the bolts back in the hole so you don't lose them. Throttle cables come out. You have to pull up the throttle and then pull the cable out. Put it to the side. Pop them out. Both sides. You have to pull that thing up again. Pull the cable forward, pop it out. Pop it out to the side, and you're done. Okay, once you disconnect that, let's see, that's the purge valve sitting up there. It's 4 bolts you need to be concerned with that are in back of this intake manifold to get it out the way. 4 bolts, 12s. And the longer bolts, the longer 2 bolts are for your EGR tube. And that's going to be, you're going to feel it. You put your hand back there, you're going to feel it. 2 other bolts for the bracket that holds into the intake manifold. They're short 12s. One there, and then one on the other side. So you can feel back there for it. After that, let's see now what else you need to do. Okay, you could just get your throttle cables out the way and take out those two connectors for the throttle position sensor. Then all of those are in the same, taped together, same harness, little loom there. You just pull them out from under your throttle cable and swing them out the way. That's your purge valve. You gotta disconnect that, and you can swing it out the way. And then you can disconnect this. It's got a bracket back there with a 12 or a 10. Disconnect it, put the bolt in the hole so you don't lose it. And what else? Okay, you disconnect the harnesses for those 3 ignition coils back there, the 3 rear coils. You can leave the coils in place. They will still be on your valve cover, and then you could take them off when you get your valve cover out, or wait till you get your intake manifold out the way. That which I'm pointing to right now is the PCV. I think it's like, what? PCV. Crank ventilation. That tube right there has 2 clamps on it. You need pliers. You take it loose, and you could pull up on one or the other. It's a hard liner on the top. So after that, come around to the front and look at the front of the intake manifold. Now you start taking off your manifold bolts. 1, 12, 2, 12, 3, 12. Stop right there. These intake manifold bolts right there, the ones that have the thread sticking out of them, some of them tend to come up with the whole thread. They come up with the whole lug. It's okay. Just take it out. Make note of it that, hey, it goes there. That one of them might just be the nut. One of them might be the whole nut in the lug. But yeah, it's okay. After that, be ready to pry up on this thing with your hand. That's the crossover tube that leads from one valve cover to the next. Okay, folks, so back here you have your throttle position sensor, these black plug connectors here. That's disconnected, and where that big hole is, the idle air control valve would sit in it. 3 bolts, size 12, and it has its own little mesh gasket. It's a very thin line gasket, and definitely take that off. It's a pain. It's a pain in the ass to keep it in the way because it's like bulk in the way. Underneath that, in the back of the intake manifold, as you can see, that is the EGR tube where it bolts up to, where it mates up to. And there is a gasket for the EGR. There's a gasket for the top of the tube and the bottom of the tube. They're both different sizes, but if you got the same size and they're brand new, use them. Let me just go back here real quick. Usually, if you look inside the hole where the idle air control valve is, with a light, that you can see straight through to where the EGR port is, and you can see a little valley. And 9 times out of 10, if it hasn't been cleaned and it's caked up with carbon, you'll see a big carbon lump sitting inside there. Take a wire hanger, dig it around, see what comes out on the hanger. Trust me, it needs cleaning every so often, just like turbo cars need to have walnut blasting and all of that, because it's a direct injection turbo cars, that is. But anyways, back here on the rear of the intake manifold, you'll see like the other hard line there where this hose goes to. That is a pain in the ass. You have to lift up on that intake manifold with one hand and reach underneath with a needle nose of pliers or some kind of pliers and fish that stupid clamp off of there and wiggle that thing like mad, or cock that thing to the side and try to pull it off with your hand. Yeah, the last line under the throttle body come on over, come on over, is that one right there. Make sure you twist it to you because you'll never be able to get it. Oh man, you don't need to pull on that because that doesn't go to the throttle body. It looks like it's only 3. Hard line over there, intermediate air line right there, straight down. And the last one is, as you can see under the throttle actuation, that hard line right down there, that hose, that's all under the throttle body. And then of course you have the PCV right there going up to the little inlet right there. Okay, back here behind the idle air control valve, right here behind your intake manifold, that's the EGR 2 bolts. This tube right here could make you or break you when you have to lift up on that thing and reach up under there with multiple pliers. Multiple, I'm talking all of them were put to use. It is better to have that last tube off. That's a C looking tube from the intake manifold to where I guess it goes to the EGR system, solenoid circuit, whatever. Try and get this, if you ever taken it off before, because this was facing downwards, opposite, try and get this thing to be pushed and twisted around so you can take it off from here next time. Much more easier. If you still feel a little tension, you got hoses connected to your intake manifold. That one's for coolant, the hard line under there, as was stated already. Then you got this one here coming off that hard line going straight up there. Definitely got to pull that off. And the one next to it with its clamp with all those letters and numbers on it, always take a video and use a pointer or your finger to say this goes to that, that goes to this, because when you have to take it off more than once, it'll get pretty, you know, you start to learn, yeah, did this already. And then you got that one back there goes straight down. There's a hard line that points straight up, so that little tiny line, it comes straight out. This EGR bolt you can get to with a closed end, open end wrench. That's the one that has the issues where people want to hack the threads. The other bolt for the EGR, you could use a 12 socket, deep in. You don't really need the extension though. The EGR for me came out really easy. I had like a 4-pound mallet or hammer. All I did was cock it to one side with the bolts taken off, and where it had binding at, I knocked it with the hammer and it came out that side. Same thing as putting it back on the car. I just used the hammer, I angled it, got the side with all the tension, got it over the lug, and that's it. Hammer it in place, make sure your gasket's going first. So I did try using a mini hacksaw because everybody's saying you need to hack the lug, and I messed up my threads. So one bolt at the bottom is holding it tight, and 2 bolts at the top and the back of the intake manifold are holding it tight. So that worked for me. I really didn't need to hack anything, but man, this thing needed a lot of cleaning to get down in there until I was able to get a wire coat hanger through to the other end where I can see water flow, because this thing was not flowing at all. No matter how much hot water, how much boiling water I used in a cup, let it sit, no matter how much bleach water, no matter how much oven cleaner, no matter how much carbon intake cleaner, it really needed like a deep clean with agitation. So if you're cleaning your EGR, be prepared. If you have something that's able to go down in there and break free all that carbon and add lubricancy, while as a cleaning solvent, bring them out, because this thing, it's too much carbon to clog the whole thing up to the top. It was really done. So I got this hanger down there, all the way down past the elbow. See that? Before I wasn't making it, but so far. But now, hopefully, I can see the water go back out the other end, which means that I'm having flow of it. Okay, back here with the easy off. I just did a rinse after having easy off sit in this thing for like a few days, and the EGR. I'm taking it with a toothbrush. I want to show you guys something on the that's the rear valve cover. This is the intake manifold. This is the where the idler control valve bolts up to place. That is EGR. You can look through there. You can see I got this toothbrush, and that's where you really need to clean where your EGR2 kind of like has that flow in there. Now, if you want to use a wire hanger, fine, but try to get some sort of brush in there to get all that crud off. Okay, rear valve cover is done, and I'm trying to, hold on a second. Yep, rear valve cover is done. Intake manifold is done. Cleaning it as much as I could, from detergent to hand sanitizer and a toothbrush to easy off, blasting it with water, to this is the GOAT. Must have these. I mean, it makes things like contact smudges and grease just run like brake parts cleaner. Clorox wipes, get them. Vinyl gloves from Harbor Freight, get them. I took the spark plug tube seals out. All of them were damaged, all of them, and I only have 2, so now I have to source one. But all this, I mean, dang, that's a lot of crud. It would take a while for that to come out. I used the Clorox wipes to go in the channel of where the valve cover sits, the gasket, and hand sanitizer, and I just took a rag, I took the wipe, I took the screwdriver, I took everything in there. It's fine. I just was trying to clean mostly where afterwards you put the valve cover gasket in, and you need some RTV sealant from at least like where it contours right here. If you look at that, I don't know what the hell that is, but from right here all the way to the back, which that would be the front crossover tube, and for the rear timing, like near the timing case, from like right around here where it pulls up at. It really does, trust me. I took the valve cover off, and right back here where the valve cover is tilted, a pool of oil is sitting there. I don't know how RTV got inside where it sits, but I'm pretty sure that was helping it not collect. So I might put RTV all up in here, all up around here on the inside, all up in here, and it's gonna cure for a couple of days. So I just might touch this corner a little bit. I really don't want to mix RTV, something where oil goes in and it gets clogged up somewhere. But they did say use it around here, maybe around here, maybe around here, and maybe around there. I was supposed to take off that throttle position sensor, and guess what? Got it back on the car. Check engine light, throttle position sensor failed, and I had to source one. Take off anything electrical. That purge valve sits right on top. 2 bolts, 1 connector. Oh my god, you can kind of tell where this is going. It's just a lot of hoses that got to be taken off of this thing before you can really get it out. 1, 2, 3. I actually left one of the hoses on. 4, 5. 5. No, it does not go to these. 6, 7 underneath the throttle body. 8. Let's not forget the one back here near the EGR. 9. The EGR itself. 10. Out of their control valve. 11. Like, there's so much stuff on this thing that you have to make a video to make sure you document it so you don't put things back wrong. Because you can, a lot of these hoses are the same size. Yep. See how it's looking in there. Ew. It's the back of the air intake manifold when it sits in the car. As you can see, there's gonna be over to the timing case a 12 over there. Then there's 12 right here. Then you have the most accessible ones for the EGR, like right there. But getting this thing off in the end, you have to like pull up on this whole assembly and try to wedge us pliers back there and pop it off. And that's the way I did it. It's like lines all over this damn thing. Coolant jacket, air hoses, all kinds of stuff. Alright, so rear valve cover is ready to go in. When you take off your intake manifold, you want to cover up the ports down there so nothing drops down there. You can see the bracket that holds the air intake manifold from the back. Yeah, that's one of them. That's where your shortest 12s will be. Just showing that I cleaned everything where RTV would go near the timing cover side, and back there in the back, that's most likely where you'll see oil running if you have a rear valve cover leak right out the back. You'll smell it too. So now it's ready to get put on the car. I just got everything out the way so that way when I go to put the valve cover back on, that nothing hinders me from doing it effortlessly, because it doesn't go on quite as like, you know, dropping it on there. Just gotta place it over the spark plug tube seals gingerly and kind of walk it down and make sure it's seated correctly on the spark plug tube seals. Then you'll be all right. Alright, so I used the RTV, and as you can see, I put it right there in that little corner, and as I press down the valve cover gasket, it's just gonna cake it on there. It's gonna cake it. Valve cover's back on in the rear. The crossover tube is attached. Oh my goodness. Right back there. Sprayed some non-flammable brake parts cleaner. Oh, okay, that gasket never came off. I got most of everything lined out here. These big washers. It's for the EGR. And it's for the bottom, as you can tell. These go on it. And then that old gasket, I'm gonna use that one because gasket's a gasket, so should be able to seal for the bottom or the top. Gasket's a gasket. Yep. Tell you about this EGR. I used open end box wrench and maybe what was that, like a 5-pound hammer. Now look, all I did was lay the EGR back, lay it down, so that way you know, the hole kind of lined up with the screw there. And as you can see, it's in just by hammering it. I'm not freaking hacksawing a damn thing. Then after that, you get your other side on by swinging it. Yeah, that's what I told you. There you go. Make sure your gasket is on there first. Look at that. Hacksaw needed? No. Who cares about that? Who cares about this? They're all gonna bend back in place. Get a hammer, open it in box wrench. Same way you took it off, same way you put it on. Hammer that shit out. Easy. 4th gen shit.